So this is one of the coolest bikes ever, but you can't own it because it basically doesn't exist. The original MT bike. This is the Yamaha Mt01, and I'm gonna tell you guys all about it. And just so you guys know, this video is sponsored by Shopify. So it's almost hard to believe that Australia, New Zealand, Europe, India, Japan, and Canada all got this motorcycle, but America didn't. This right here is a 2004 Yamaha Mt01, and it was smuggled in somehow into this country. We'll get to that later, by a very unique customer. We will also get to that in a little bit. So what Yamaha did, and I love when motorcycle companies do this, they took the 1700cc motor from the Warrior, which was their street muscle bike, and they took some suspension components off the Yamaha R1, which is their flagship super sport bike, and they made them have a baby to create this awesome naked bike. Now, I don't know exactly how, did they put them in the same stall together? Did they artificial inseminate? I don't know. Science will help us out with that. So when we're talking about the suspension components, the forks and the brakes are all directly off of the R1. Also, these are the same wheels and tire size off the R1. Now, some people say that the rear swing arm is, this is the exact same off the R1. It's not true. If you look at the pictures, they're clearly different, but it's the same design off of like the 2004 or 2005 Yamaha R1. But this is a little bit different up here. Now, Yamaha made the Mt01 from 2005 to 2012, which means that America didn't get left out once. They got left out 7 times in a row. So the bike is powered by a 1670cc Yamaha V-twin pushrod engine. And it uses a 5-speed gearbox and a chain drive to get the power back to the wheels. And then from there, it's running a 190 sport bike tire to get you traction on the ground. Now, we are all aware of the MT series from Yamaha because in 2018, they changed all the FC bikes to MT. Now they did that because the rest of the world, they were always MT. They never had FC bikes. It's kind of like how in America, they call the CBR 1000 the CBR 1000, but in the rest of the world, they call it the Honda Fireblade. So this would be like Honda just saying, okay, at this point, now everyone's calling it the Fireblade, which kind of makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense is that it's still an American name. And if you're wondering what MT stands for, I don't know if FZ stood for anything, but MT actually does stand for something, or at least they're saying it stands for something, and that is Masters of Torque. And this bike completely fits in that category. The other MT bikes are the Mt03, the Mt07, which is one of my personal favorites. I love that bike, Mt09, and the Mt10. It's the only manufacturer that has a full, complete family line of naked street fighter bikes that are all amazing bikes. They're all a blast to ride. But it all started with this one right here. There are a few other bikes that might have helped inspire the Mt01. The Buells were running large displacement V-twin in sport bikes back then. Honda also had the RC51, and then the more naked bike, the Super Hawk, and of course the Ducati Monster, which is similar in the fact that originally it was built from using other parts from other motorcycles in their lineup. Now you might be wondering how this bike actually got here, and the answer to that is I don't know. I've tried importing one of these. It's very, very hard to do. But what may give you some information is the previous owner was Mike Corbin. Yes, that Mike Corbin, the guy that owned Corbin. So they have some special rules as a manufacturer. They can bring things in and consider them bikes that they're using to build parts off of to manufacture parts. It's some type of loophole. That's my only assumption of how he was able to get this thing in here. And there are a few of them. Every once in a while, you might see one pop up. I know of 2 or 3 that are in America, but I'm sure there's a few more. But a handful of Mike Corbin's collection got sold, and a lot of it got sold at the Mecum auction in Vegas, which is where I found it, and I never seen one before, and I had to have it. Now, initially when I saw the bike, I was like, wow, I think there's a lot of aftermarket parts on it. But then I started doing some research, and I realized that most of it is all just one kit. Obviously, the seat is special. This is a special piece, and this actually comes off. I'll take it off in a little bit. Yamaha had 3 different stage kits. They had the Stage 1, which was the aquapovic muffler, a heat shield, and the solo seat kit, which was fully street legal. Stage 2, which was the same exhaust, heat shield, solo seat. Stage 2 high performance ECU, and that was track use only. Then they had a Stage 3, which is all of the above, and a velocity stack kit, valve spring set, stronger diaphragm, clutch springs, gasket kit, high compression pistons, and a high performance camshaft, and a performance ECU, which is all track only. So I'm assuming that this is the Stage 1 kit, because I didn't see anything special on the ECU, and I'm not gonna tear the engine down to see if it's any different. But as far as I know, it's probably a Stage 1. These are the heat shields. That's the custom exhaust. It even says right here, exhaust system, specifically Mt-01. Now this guy, I believe, was made for Corbin, or made from Corbin. So it's kind of cool. I think it's ugly, but it's kind of cool where the whole thing actually pops off just like it goes where the seat was. This bike has a dyno jet power commander on it. And then this seat pops off pretty easily by just putting the key right here on the left side of the bike. And then that pops off and the battery is nicely wedged down in there. Now on top of that, I'm not sure if this is stock or it came after, but this is all steel braided brake lines, which is really nice. Also, I know this is aftermarket, the BST carbon fiber wheels, which are super cool, but later I found out are illegal in racing because they don't bend, they just explode. But super cool looking. It also has these really cool Behringer master cylinder brake kits, which this one we need to adjust a little bit better. It's kind of touchy. Now in terms of seating position, I do like this backrest. It is kind of nice. But you don't get to use it like a backrest. It's more just like it holds you in your seat when you're pulling. It's like most naked street fighter bikes or adventure bikes. The bars come up towards you. Your knees are ahead of your feet. And it's just a very, very comfortable riding position. But to really experience what this bike is all about, we gotta take it for a spin. You gotta hear this motor though. So before we ride this thing, the most common question I get is, Sean, how do I start a business? And this is what I tell them. I tell them to start with the simplest, most easy thing that you can possibly do. And that is start a Shopify store. Shopify is a commerce platform that allows you to start, grow, and manage your business. I've been using Shopify for the past 6 years. All my merch and all my product stores are all Shopify stores. And if you've ever bought any merch from us, like this shirt right here, you've used Shopify also. It's simple. Find a good product that's quality, that you know your customers will like, that you can sell. Take the pictures, put the product in the Shopify store, and then start selling stuff. One of the best feelings ever is you wake up in the morning, you open up your phone, you look at your Shopify account and realize that you just made money while you were sleeping. It's also super easy to do. If you wanted to, you can code the whole thing yourself, or you can use one of their templates that's just drag and drop. So if you've been thinking about going on your own and starting a side project, or you just have a killer idea of a product or something that you want to sell, do the lowest hanging fruit thing and start a Shopify store. Go check them out at shopify.com/Srkcycles to take advantage of their free trial. And now let's go ride this bike. All right, guys, let's do the verse of the day. This is Romans 10:9. Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Let's go ride this bike. All right, so just fill you guys in, this is my first time riding this bike. Man, that sounds cool. That feels so good. So this is actually the first Mt-01 I've ever seen. It came up at auction and I had to have it. And this is the first time riding it. So I'm very excited, but I still can't really say that I've ridden a stock one because this one's pretty modified. It's got the brakes, it's got the wheels, it's got the exhaust, it's got the power commander. I mean, almost anything you could do to one of these bikes, this one's been done. That feels good. And as much as I talk trash on Ducati, there is something very unique and special about a V-twin sport bike. It's always kind of been a thing that Americans make V-twin motorcycles and the Japanese make other stuff. And Europeans make the Boxer. And it's almost like every continent has their own type of motorcycle engine that they like to run. And they all have their own benefits. I can't say I love one and hate the other. They're all good for different things, but there is something very fun and unique when you kind of switch them around. Like imagine a Harley Davidson that normally had a vibrating V-twin and you put a really smooth inline 4 in it, or a Boxer 6 or something like that. That's exciting. Well, this is what happens when you put a Japanese V-twin inside of a naked street fighter bike. A V-twin can only be so smooth. You feel that vibration, that rumble, and it makes it for a really, really fun ride. I've been around motorcycles. I've seen thousands and thousands of motorcycles for sale, if not more than that, tens of thousands, if not more than that, for sale at auctions, and I've been to tons of bike shows and everything. I've never seen one of these. So the chances of you pulling up next to someone who's got the same bike, it's pretty rare. And if it does happen, you may have found your new best friend. Then we're gonna jump on the highway and see what this thing can do. Now this bike is a lot of things, but one thing it's not is light. It weighs in at somewhere around 580 pounds, and you can feel it, but it's not bad. It's not bad. This weighs similar to what like my BMW GS 1250 is gonna weigh in. But compare that to a modern day sport bike, like a Yamaha R1, they're weighing in at around 450 pounds. So you're looking at, you know, the difference of you having a girl in the back and you not having a girl in the back. Now we're here on the highway, we're doing, I don't know, the speed limit, I don't know, it says 116 kilometers an hour, no one knows what that means. And we're at 2,500 RPM, it's smooth, it's a smooth ride. So let's see what happens if you downshift a couple gears, and let's see how that passing gear feels. Yep. It feels pretty good. So we're not talking super bike level speed. It's still fast. It's still, you know, I think they said top speed was 130 miles an hour. I cannot confirm that. I don't know what that converts to. What is that, 300 miles an hour or 300 kilometers an hour? No one knows. So it's fast, but it's definitely not super bike fast. It's not trying to pull wheelies on the highway. You know, it's not doing nothing like that. But what it does have, it always has power whenever you want it. We're in top gear, 30 at RPMs like this. First of all, the bike redlines at 5,500 RPMs, which on a normal sport bike, you didn't even get into the power band. You know, an R6, you know, a 600cc bike, you don't get into the power band until you hit like 10,000 RPMs. All right, let's do 0 to 60. I don't know where 60 is, but that pulled well. That was fun. First time trying it, and I think that did way better. I mean, if I did a couple more runs, that could have been even better. So this thing is not super bike speed and performance on the highway. It pulls well, don't get me wrong. But in the lower speeds, like 0 to 60, 0 to 80, 0 to 100, this thing really is a rocket ship, and it is a blast. So if you were going to ask me, like, hey, what bike does this compare to? That's really tough, because this engine is a modified Warrior engine. If you remember, I think it was 2005, maybe 2006, where they made the Yamaha Warrior, and that was kind of the predecessor to the Raider and their big 1900cc bikes. Which, man, to see a 1900 in a bike like this would be so cool. It's tough to compare this thing, so let's put it in the category of where it belongs, and that's naked Street Fighter bikes. Most naked Street Fighter bikes, they do tune them, and they are adjusted to have most of the torque down low, which that's how it is, and all the speed and power is all usable speed and power, where you're closer to being legal with using this power on the street than a bike that can do 200 miles an hour. You're much less legal on a bike like that. Like a Ducati Monster would be probably a good comparison of a motorcycle with something like this. But then you get that Yamaha reliability. Now, getting parts for it, I have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, they did release this in Canada and other parts of the country. I don't know why they never release it in America. For whatever reason, that's what makes it so cool. So it's an extremely comfortable bike to ride. You know, this is just the normal. We've grown to accept this, and this is how naked Street Fighter bikes like sit. It's just comfortable. The bars are higher up. You're not reaching down. You're kind of in a sportier stance. Not back here, but you're a little bit down here. All the fun stuff you want to do on the street, and a lot of it on the track. This thing's just this is what it's made for. So a really comfortable bike, really fun to ride. Now this Corbin seat, I know this was Corbin's personal bike. I don't know about the seat. I don't know. I've never been a huge fan of Corbin seats. For some reason, they never fit me that well. maybe I've not spent enough time on them. If you like Corbin seats, hey, that's cool. You know, I know a lot of people really like them. If you think you might like them, don't listen to me. I don't want to. I'm not throwing any shade on Corbin. He did do a nice job putting this bike together, though. Let's do another 0 to 60 pull. This was really, really fun. That was so cool. I will admit, these tires are getting a little old. Where I dumped the clutch at, just kind of fishtail to the right, fishtail to the left. Very planted, very smooth, very controllable. It wasn't just all to the right or all to the left. Really well balanced machine. Because these tires are pretty old, I trust them as much as I can going straight. Worst that'll happen is it'll fishtail. I don't trust them very much hitting a corner really hard. Now you might be wondering, you're like, Sean, what is this bike for? Why does this bike exist? Why do I need this bike in my garage? My first thing I'm going to tell you is you can't get it in your garage. It's not available. They don't exist. The second thing I'm going to tell you is you need this bike in your garage because it's something that's very, very unique, and people say that it doesn't handle that well. It's what it's made for. It's a canyon carver, but with that low end torque whenever you want it. All different bikes have a little bit different flavor. They're good for different things. This is good for that drag racing from a stop up to 100 something miles. I mean, it gets there very, very fast, but there is something very cool and very unique about the way it gets there and the way this thing feels that I think you guys all need one, but you can't have one because they don't exist. Guys, I think you're gonna like this next video right here. I hand-picked this next video just for you. Go check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll see you guys later. Remember, it is not what you're riding, but where you're going.